Hey, YouTube family. I've been thinking over the past couple of days. I did a couple of videos in terms of accountability and above the law and that type of thing. And it made me realize that we owe President Trump a debt of gratitude because in his second term, even more so than in his first term, he has absolutely exposed the true faces of our politicians. Um, the one that really gets me the most is the rebel. This is who Trump portrays himself to be. Um, and I did a little deep dive on it, so I'm going to read you this definition. You tell me who it reminds you of. Okay, the rebel. This is the outside populist whose war cry is, "The elites are corrupt, and I am your revenge." Sound familiar? They weaponize public anger and grievance, creating a powerful us versus them narrative. The mask of being a man of the people is a bait and switch. It hides a deep narcissism, uh-oh, aiming not to fix the system, but to hijack it for their own self-serving ambition. Man, you'd almost think that this GPT knew this guy personally, because that is a very apt description of what we've been witnessing. And again, even more so now in the second term than what we saw in the first term. We found out how absolutely weak our politicians are. The strength that they project on the campaign trail doesn't follow through into Washington itself. Why is that? You're manly on the campaign trail, but when you get to Washington, you turn into a wet washcloth. Just limp, no backbone. And then you have the other ones, on the other hand, who like to go to Washington and make deals. The way I see it, you've got the rebel, you've got people who call themselves watching out for your own good when they're trying to do the same thing that the rebel is doing, but they're putting a little sugar coating on it and saying that it's that they've got our back, that they're going to make sure that things get done for us. When in fact, what they're really doing is making sure that things get done for themselves. You know, I remember hearing a politician years ago. I forget what party he was in because I wasn't into politics like this. I was just like you. I wanted to go out and go to work and do what I had to do. I didn't want to have to worry about what was going on in the government day by day. But in any case, this particular person was elected to an office, and I don't remember exactly where, but there was some type of conflict, and so his constituents wanted to put their 2 cents in. And I remember this part. This much I do remember. He said, "Well, I don't govern by consensus." And I'm like, "Wow, you don't. You don't govern by consensus." Uh-oh. You might be having a little power issue here. Hopefully it'll stay on. But I found that to be kind of amazing, considering that this guy thought that the people who elected him were smart enough to make that decision to send him, to put him in office. But once these people get into office, we all become freaking idiots, right? Yeah. We're smart enough to vote them in, but not smart enough to make any recommendations once they're in. I find that to be really amazing. And what I find to be amazing about it is that these same people, due to name recognition or laziness or, complacency or to some degree, they keep getting reelected year after year after year after year. And until we end up where we're at now. One person comes in, brainwashes everybody or hypnotizes them or promises them the world or whatever it is. And suddenly, nothing gets done for the people. Everything gets done for the other politicians, though. They make plenty of deals with each other. You know, it's something that we, as an electorate, we have to change that. We have to really make sure that when we elect a politician, that they're going to Washington to handle our business, not their business, but our business, as it should be. You know, and let me reiterate one thing that I said in another video, an earlier video. Once a politician is elected to office, they should have no further affiliation with any political party. You're not a Democrat, you're not a Republican, you're not an independent. You work for everybody in the United States of America. That's what you do. And last but not least, the White House? No, it's the people's house. That White House tag is why we have the problem that we have with white supremacy in this country. I mean, come on, the connection is very obvious. White supremacy, white nationalism, White House. Okay? That's something I think that we need to work on with the next president. Things need to change drastically in this country. And we really have to make sure that this situation that we're in now doesn't occur again. We have the laws. We have to put these things in place. Term limits are extremely important. The Supreme Court, they need rules. They need rules more than anybody else. Because, again, nobody should be above the law. All right, folks. Look, I'll see you on the next video. Stay fit, stay safe out there, and take care.